All right, folks, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by the good friends over at Bet on the Line. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here to break down the Denver Nuggets loss to not the New Orleans Pelicans. That was on Friday. The Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday. Final score of that one was 105-90, and the word that comes to mind is kind of hapless. Like Denver, there was no real belief that they were ever going to get that done, in my opinion. And that comes from the top, and it comes from not having Nikola Jokic. It comes from coaching staff probably panicking a little bit. It comes from the players at the top not playing up to their standard. And the standard has gotten pretty low over the course of the beginning of the season for Jamal Murray. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about Murray's struggles. We're going to talk about whether we can actually take away anything from this particular game, whether we can, like what should Nuggets fans be feeling right now? I did a show last night with Matt Moore, and you look at the comments on that one, and holy cow, the comments are pretty ugly. So you can't bury a guy 12 games into the season, but Jamal Murray's trying at this point. He's not, it is not looking good for him so far. And in a moment where the Nuggets need him to step up, in a moment where, hey, he suffered a concussion a few weeks ago. Team stepped up in his absence. Russell Westbrook stepped up in his absence. Nikola Jokic just said, I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do more. The same cannot be said for what Jamal has done so far. It's really, really unfortunate. We have our first super chat. 279 Canadian from Mafia. He says, why can't Malone run a competent offense without Joker? Very loaded question, unfortunately. It feels like the Nuggets at this point are entirely dependent on Joker. I think that they have been doing what they've done for 10 years effectively. And when you're doing something for 10 years and then they're like, okay, now we're going to run something entirely different, it's a little bit different. I think that Malone and others thought that Jamal Murray would be better at the beginning of the season and the offense would look a little bit better without him. I just looking at the breakdown of the numbers, when Murray's on the floor and Jokic is off, the offensive rating isn't horrible. It's actually way worse when Porter's on the floor with Russell Westbrook and Julian Strawther and Dario Saric and Zeke Naji and guys like that. I don't know why necessarily that is, because it feels like the offense is way worse when Murray is out there kind of running it without Joker, but I'm just telling you what the Nuggets actually, or what the numbers actually are. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you for showing. Cedric also drops a super chat at the beginning. He says, Jamal plays like third best. Why, Ryan? How is AG, by the way? I assume you mean like third best player on the team. That's because, frankly, if we're being honest, every analytic would tell you that Aaron Gordon is the second best player on the team, that the all-encompassing impact that he has on the offensive and defensive end, the detail stuff that he does, makes him the second best player on the team, and that Jamal, the responsibility that he has is actually a little bit less than you would think, and he doesn't necessarily do it as well as some others might hope for. Aaron Gordon, I think, is going to miss this next game on Tuesday. There is a possibility that he does play on Friday, and if he does, then fantastic. But at this point, it's just a really, really unfortunate place where Denver is at, where not only do they not have Jokic during this time, but not having Aaron Gordon means that Denver doesn't have that kind of elite rim rolling and playmaking in the middle of the floor when they need it most. So very unfortunate, but thank you, Cedric, for the super chat as well. And actually, I believe that, Mr. Exquisite Nugget sent one earlier. I missed this one. So let me pop this one on there. Jamal sucks. He's not the second best player. Ryan, he's third. That's at this point, he doesn't play like Denver's, he plays like the fourth best player. And because Michael Porter has been way more consistent than him on both ends of the floor for much of the year. And that is a really unfortunate piece. It's just been brutal. Just been brutal to watch. And look, you guys know I want the best for Jamal. I posted on Saturday. I did this same show and was like, I wanted the best for Jamal and want to see him take on more responsibility with this group. But so far, that just hasn't been the case. And at some point, you just are what you are. And right now, Murray is very inconsistent. He's not doing the things that the Nuggets need him to do when Joker is missing. When Joker's playing, it's a different feel. It's a different understanding. They are actually a lot better and like they're an elite team when Joker's out there, especially with Jamal. Like when Joker's out there without Jamal, they're not an elite team. They're a good team. When Jamal's out there without Joker, they're a poor team. And I think like my brother said this to me before starting the show. He thinks that the Nuggets, like in a full season, 82 games without Jokic, would win about 18 games. And that's a feeling that a lot of Nuggets fans have, just watching the product of what we're seeing and the consistency and the actual potency. Like they don't like a lot of people don't think that Denver can do it. So that's why Jokic is so, as valuable as he is. It doesn't make him the MVP what he does or what the team does without him, but what he does when he's on the floor to make sure that everybody's pulling the same direction is all the more impressive. Mafia also had another super chat. Porter had 7 30-point games since 2022-23. Another stat that I have kind of like this, since the beginning of the 2023-24 season, Jamal has 8 30-point games. Part of the reason that Porter doesn't have a whole bunch of those games is because his usage rate is lower than somebody like Jamal and, of course, somebody like Joker. There's only so many opportunities they actually gets to be that high volume scorer. And I would like to see him get some more opportunities if he can handle it physically. There are some things that he can't do, like he can't create as much space athletically as he's done in the past, but I do think that he's a smarter player than he was before. So if I were Denver, I'd be trying to get him 18 to 20 shots a little bit more consistently now. Like just see where you can go and see what he can do. And if he can go 12 of 20 in a game, you're probably scoring 30. And if he goes 8 of 20 in the game, then that's just what Murray's averaging right now. So thank you for the super chat. Yeah, it's just been brutal. Just going through the starting lineups, and I'll talk about that really quickly before we hit a break. Murray had 13 points on 15 shots yesterday, 1 of 6 from 3, 6 turnovers. On it, and here's let me give him some positive thinking here. The passing, rebounding, and defense from him were actually pretty good for Murray. I thought that he was pretty solid in those particular categories. The problem is that the Nuggets scored 90 points, and they need more from a scoring perspective. They need him to be a scorer. And I'm just not surprised that, like, hey, he can have decent games because he's a reasonably well-rounded player. But what the Nuggets actually need is the points. They don't need the details. They don't need him to do all of that stuff. It's brutal. It's brutal at this point. And I'm just really exhausted by this entire conversation because I've long been the guy that's defended Jamal over and over again. And it has not felt like he's been giving it back. He's been like paying back the Nuggets for like the time that Joker's missing. Jamal missed 3 games. And you would think that he would want to, or not want to, but like would be capable of stepping up into a larger role in that regard, and just has not really been able to do that. So it is just exhausting. I hate like the entire level of negativity that's going against him right now is tremendous. It is. I don't think I've ever seen it for a Nuggets player like it before. And like, because when you had this kind of negativity before, it was with guys that were like the 8th man or the 9th man on the team, or somebody that didn't have this large role. With Murray, like he's the second best player on the team. He's making $50 million a year. Like that should be like reserved for like positivity. And it's just unfortunate. It's really, really, it's really, really painful. Because I don't want to be like all negative Nancy for it the entire time. I what I want to do is be able to celebrate a team that is very good, that just won a championship in 2023. And they're now putting me into pretty compromising positions where I'm like, yeah, this is bad. This is really, really ugly. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. Michael Porter had 10 points on 12 shots, 0 of 4 from three. I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass on top of me jinxing it because I wrote in the pregame that he had 8 straight games of 16 plus prior to last night's debacle. I'm just not really worried about him. He's going to get better shots. He's going like his role is mostly dependent on like shots that are generated for him in good spots, and he'll be able to get that with Jokic a little bit more consistently. So I'm not like it's not his responsibility to be that guy. It's Jamal's. Dario Saric, I thought, filled in reasonably well for Joker on both ends in both of these games. He combined for, in both games, 19 points, 18 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals. And that's solid. Like, that's good enough. Denver should be able to fill in the gaps when you get that from Dario, who hadn't been playing well prior to. And I'm glad that if there's anything that's come from this, Dario has at least, like, shown that he exists again and shown that he can play. And I was always one that was like, hey, you got to keep giving him opportunities. You can't just cut him off entirely because the alternative is Zeke Naji or DeAndre Jordan. And DeAndre, like we'll talk about him in the second segment, he wasn't that good. So I'm glad that they got Dario back out there. He should continue to play. Christian Braun was fine. Good defense against Desmond Bane, but he hasn't made a 3 so far on this road trip, and that's something that I will be monitoring. Like, yes, you can make 3s when Joker's out there, when he's setting things up and the passes on time on target. When you need to create something kind of off kilter, when it's not perfect, when the setup's not great, how do you operate? How do you play? And Christian, like, he's been fine. Like, he was fine last night. It was like 5 of 11 for 13 points. I'm not going to say he was bad. I'm not going to sit here and say he was bad, but it's it's tough. Time to go block some people on Twitter. All right. Actually, you know what? Let's mute. Let's just mute. It's been ugly. Everybody on social is it's pretty bad. It's been pretty bad right now. I've moved over to Blue Sky if you haven't noticed that. Peyton Watson made a 3. He had 2 stocks. He was fine. Impact wasn't really felt. It wasn't that great. I keep coming back to Jamal. The real story with this is Jamal and the fact that he has been not good enough. And the Nuggets at this point, they need to see some positivity from him, some games from him where they could be like, oh yeah, that Jamal is in there. The good news, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in segment 3. The good news is that Murray, like his worst months every year are October and November, and then he's better in December and better in January, and so on and so forth. So maybe Denver's just getting him at a bad time, and Denver will play a little bit better, and Murray will play a little bit better going forward. That's at least the positive outlook on it. So we will see what ultimately happens, but I am curious to see how it goes. Mafia with another super chat. Since 2022-23, Murray has 15 30-point games. Poole has 22. To be fair to Murray on this one, Jordan Poole could jack up as many shots as he wanted to on Washington last year, and it just did not matter. So, like, at least with Murray, what I will give him credit for is he does try to make the right play most of the time. And, like, the actual level of scoring is down in general, but he does do other things way better than somebody like Jordan Poole. So that is slanderous. I'm gonna have to knock you back for that. All right. Did I do a bet online read earlier, guys? I'm sorry. I didn't do a bet online read. So you get it now. I got distracted by so many awesome super chats. So thank you for the super chats. I don't want to bemoan that in any way, shape, or form. Really quickly, before we hit a break, this podcast is brought to you by the good folks over at Bet Online, your number one source for everything betting. Really always appreciate Bet Online for what they do. They are the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for in-game live betting. They provide you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with a large selection of props, football, NBA, NHL, and more. Head on over to Bet Online today to get in on the action on America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. We will be right back. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We are going to talk about the bench and some concerns I have. I mean, not really concerns, but we'll go a little bit more positive with Julian Strawther. We will be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we're back. Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It's been, it's been interesting. I did another show on Locked On, and we basically spent all 3 segments talking about Murray over there. So if you can't tell, I'm kind of exhausted with the conversation from last night, and I am going to continue talking about it because that's what I'm paid to do. That's what you guys want me to do. But I also want to talk about the rest of the team because it's important to talk about. There are other players. There are. So we're gonna talk about them a little bit. Julian Strawther was pretty good. 19 points, 6 of 13 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. I remember at the end of the first quarter, he hadn't made a shot, or at least hadn't made a 3 up until that point. And he dribbled into like 35 seconds left. He dribbled into a pretty deep pull-up 3 at the end of to get the 2-for-1 and drained it. Nothing but the bottom. That confidence and that level of shooting, that level of explosiveness is something that the Nuggets have from 2 players right now. It is Michael Porter Jr. and from Julian Strawther. Those are the only 2 guys that can really give it to you outside of Jokic. And Jokic is a different category, obviously. He's best player in the world. But what Strawther can do, and what I continue to think about from this Nuggets team, is that there have to continue to be more opportunities to get Strawther on the floor because he is the only guy, with the young guys. Christian Brown is more steady. Peyton Watson has the defensive explosiveness. Julian Strawther has the offensive explosiveness, the shooting, the volume scoring. He can do some of that. And when he does get the opportunity to shine, when he does get the shots, when he does play within what he can do, but then kind of color outside the lines a little bit, he can go for those crooked numbers. He's like a 6-man spark plug off the bench, somebody who can really get hot really quickly and could potentially change some games for Denver. So I hope that they continue to develop that skill set of his ability to make that happen. That is a big deal. And I would like to see Denver continue to do that going forward because, yes, Strawther's defense is probably the worst in the lineup right now. You look up and down the lineup and the rotation and what the Nuggets are actually putting out there. Strawther's defense is probably the worst. But that doesn't really matter that much because the Nuggets are scoring 90 points and 94 points in the previous one. So Denver's they need offense. They need somebody who can score. And Strawther, I think, is somebody that can do that. So it's one of the reasons why he played 25 minutes last night. I hope he continues to play around that number. That seems like a pretty good number for even when everybody's healthy. I want to see Peyton Watson play 20. I want to see Julian Strawther play 20 to 25. I think that Russell Westbrook should be about 15 to 20. That's where I think that he should probably settle. And then you don't have that many more minutes to fill in after that. And Dario can just fill in the gaps and maybe somebody else. But for the most part, when Denver's fully healthy, their rotation is still really solid. That's as long as everybody's doing the right things and everybody's kind of picking up the slack for what their role is going to be, Denver's still going to be okay when Joker's out there. I just think that Julian Strawther, you want to continue to get the shooting volume up if you can. Russell Westbrook, I thought he was decent. 2 of 7 from 2, 2 of 3 from 3, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, 2 stocks. Like, there was nothing about last night that I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? Russ really could have really changed this game, or Russ was really the problem in this game. There was nothing there. First stint, he was like minus 16 in 8 minutes, and it wasn't entirely his fault. It's just more of a byproduct of the situation. But it is something that I continue to monitor, that when Jokic is on the floor with Russ, they're about even. When Russ is on the floor without Joker, they're pretty bad. And it's not just like Russ's own individual like play that really gets bad, but like there's some detail things with him and what he's actually putting together. The way that he attacks the defense, sometimes he'll go reckless abandon at times, and he'll lose the ball in the lane trying to draw a foul. The 2-point fadeaway is still like concerning. Fortunately, he doesn't do that often. And fortunately, right now he is shooting 2 of 3 from 3 this last game, and the actual shooting numbers have been okay. It's the driving numbers and the ability to finish accurately in the middle of the floor has not been great. So I continue to think that when Denver gets into a playoff environment, that the actual roles are what's going to happen. Strother is going to be a guy that they're going to need to play. Peyton's going to be a guy that they need to play. Russ will be a guy that they play, but it's going to be closer to a Reggie Jackson role than it is like 20, 25, 30 minutes like it was with a Bruce Brown. Like, that's the impression that I have so far through 12 games. That could obviously change. I'm not going to sit here and be like nobody was really expecting Bruce Brown with that, but like I think he's a decent facsimile of it. So hopefully he continues to get more efficient from the 2-point side of things. Vlatko was like, he got to play. I thought he had a really nice kind of debut back against New Orleans and looked pretty good, looked pretty solid on both ends of the floor. He got to play again against Memphis, a little bit less good for sure. Not great. Not a lot of opportunities, obviously, to stand out, but there was one turnover that was really ugly. I thought his defense was okay. Certainly not anything to write home about, but I do think that in general, Vlatko's somebody that Denver should be playing like the 10th to 11th most amount of minutes on the team when everybody is healthy, as opposed to the 8th or 9th. Unfortunately for Denver, like, because Aaron Gordon is out, they are now kind of elevating people. They've been going back and forth between him and Hunter Tyson. I think that Vlatko is the better player right now. Hunter shooting 11% from 3. I just am not surprised that they've decided to go this direction, and I think it's the right call. Hopefully, as he gets more comfortable, he continues to play better. I think his fit with Jokic is a lot better than maybe his fit without him. But I also think that maybe he could play a little 5. Maybe he could play a little backup center for Denver. If that is the right call, then so be it. I'm curious to see how he handles that. DeAndre played last night as a direct result of Zeke's poor play in the previous game. I think that if Denver had their druthers, if everything was going well, then they would try to get Zeke some extended minutes, trying to get his minutes up, trying to get him some more confidence, playing well, making some shots. But they can't do that if he's minus 15 in 6 minutes like he was on Friday night. So they decided to go with DeAndre, and DeAndre was subpar. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and act like he was much better. He did match up reasonably well against Zach Edey in his first quarter minutes. Edey did do a bunch of different things. He blocked Murray at one point, and then got a steal from Jamal Murray in the same possession. Should be a strong indication of how Murray's night went. But DeAndre, like, he had 2 rebounds, he had 0 blocks, 0 steals, 0 assists. He had 4 points. Like, the actual impact of what he was doing wasn't great. He tried to help out on a couple of times, and there was one where he tried to help out when Porter was in decent position to contest a shot. DeAndre came over and tried to block the shot, and then the offensive player leveraged that into a pass to Zach Edey for a wide open dunk. So just kind of guessed wrong on that. Nobody should be expecting that high of a performance from DeAndre. Like nobody's really trying to do that here, but Denver does need something. They need somebody to give them something. And I thought Dario gave them some good minutes as the center. So he should probably be the backup center going forward, I would say. But I can't exactly say that because if he goes back to playing the way that he played with Russ and wasn't like I think he plays decently well with Jamal. I think those guys actually have a decent style that they can play together. Russ and Dario are going to be like oil and water. The way that Russ wants to run, the way that he wants to play fast paced, and the way that Dario wants to slow it down and be a little bit more methodical. So I still don't know how Denver's going to handle that. And it might be a situation where Dario looks bad because he's playing with the bench as opposed to playing with the starters where he could be more of a Joker facsimile. So we'll see what ultimately becomes of it, but obviously there are still concerns. I keep wishing with the second unit that the Nuggets had just more options that they could go to. A little bit more firepower, a little bit more athleticism, a change of pace. They just don't have those things. Like they're just looking at the deep bench and what's consistently being provided. Hunter Tyson was supposed to be their bench shooting forward this year. He's shooting really well in practice. He was a guy that everybody was pretty high on coming out of training camp. You hear a lot of good things. And then he shot poorly in preseason, and now he's shooting poorly in the regular season. He's at 11% from three. So it's hard to continually go to that. Despite the fact that his hustle and his ability to actually defend, I think, has been surprisingly positive for what the Nuggets have wanted. Zeke has already proven that he can't really be trusted with that. Jalen Pickett's been banished to the shadow realm. I don't think we're ever going to hear from him again. Spencer Jones and PJ Hall aren't really that. Deron Holmes is injured. He's not playing. The only guy that I can really think of that might be what I'm talking about is Trey Alexander, who, shout out to him for coming on the show. He's really the only kind of option that I'm thinking of when Denver needs a change of pace. What can they do? But are you going to play Trey Alexander over Russell Westbrook? Are you going to play him over Julian Strawther? Are you going to play him over Jamal Murray? Do you add him to that mix? Like maybe fans feel like, yeah, you should play Trey Alexander over Jamal Murray. Like, what are you doing? Obviously, you should do that. That's not how the NBA works, unfortunately. It's just not. And I know that, look, I'm seeing Don't Tell Santa Cruz in the comments just mindlessly railing on Jamal Murray for the entire time that I'm doing this show. And look, I get it. I can understand being upset. It's not going to change anything. Trey Alexander's not playing over Jamal. Maybe that's a conversation you can have in future years, but Denver's got him for a 4-year extension. They are not about to give up on him for Trey Alexander. It's just facts right now. So maybe you try to play over. Yeah. Look, maybe you try to play Trey Alexander with a group of guys and try to go a little bit smaller, some more guards. Maybe move Julian Strawther to the 3. You play Russ and Trey together. That could be something that they try off their bench to get a little bit more offense, a little bit more burst when Jokic isn't out there. I don't know. We'll see. Santa Cruz still going over. Bro, he never takes accountability for his horrible performance while Jokic gets a huge triple-double and still takes the blame. Sure. I don't care. I do not, at this point, I'm exhausted by this entire conversation. Noted. We have heard you. I promise. Everybody has heard you. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about can we actually learn anything from these games without Jokic? Can anything be learned from these moments? We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, Back at it, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Let's bring this a little bit more full circle. Jokic didn't play the last couple of games. I don't think he's going to play on Tuesday, just based off of the reporting, based off of what we're hearing. I don't think he's going to play on Tuesday. Maybe he surprises. Maybe he makes the trip down to Memphis. I'm pretty sure he's in Denver right now, at least from what I understand. Does he actually play against Memphis in the NBA Cup game on Tuesday? I don't know. Probably not. That would be my expectation. And so Aaron Gordon will probably not play either. So Denver's got basically the same mix of guys that they have. Can they win? Can they actually win without Joker? Can they win without Aaron Gordon? Can they find ways to get it done? After last podcast, I called him the foundation. I called him the guy that like he was the foundation of the house that you're building. And you can't build a house without any foundation because everything's going to be shaky and it's going to crumble. Obviously, Joker's closer to the foundation, the walls, and the roof of the house. So that's my overall impression at this point. Can the Nuggets, without him, can they bounce back and find a way to win? Maybe. Maybe they can't. Maybe they can. We'll find out. We're going to find out for sure. I am worried about Murray, obviously, in these situations. I know that we've beaten that down over the course of plenty of time. The Nuggets' identity without Jokic doesn't really exist. What I thought the identity was going to ultimately be was Murray taking on more responsibility, setting the table for other people, but consistently trying to hunt his own shots, trying to find opportunities to get some threes up, to get volume scoring up. And that just hasn't really happened to this point. He's had 16 shots and 15 shots in games where the Nuggets scored 94 and 90 points. The reason why he's not scoring more is because he's not shooting accurately, and he wants to continue to try to make plays for other people because he knows that he doesn't have it, but that's just unacceptable, obviously. He needs to have it in these games. And it's why I'm worried about Murray for these similar situations in the regular season and the playoffs. It's why Denver struggles without Joker, because they're paying Murray, they're paying these guys to do what they're doing with Jokic, not without him. And I don't know if they can do it without him. We've already seen the numbers. We've talked about the numbers. We know that it's going to be a problem. There's just been nothing to indicate that Denver can survive without Jokic for minutes or games up until this point. And really, it's been a career thing. But in past years, Denver's actually been able to survive. They've been able to do it. They've been able to be okay. Now it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Aaron Gordon might help when he does come back. It's why I continue to talk about the idea of Aaron Gordon being the backup center. Or if not him, then maybe just playing him next to Dario and having two guys in the front court that can pass to each other, that can account for each other, that can be a good playmaker, can run the DHO, things like that. Maybe Aaron can be a little bit more of a rim roller while Dario is popping. Maybe Dario continues to find his three-point shot like he's had over the last couple of games, and he continues to figure some stuff out on that front. But he is probably the guy that I'm looking at to help Denver survive with their second unit, not Jamal as much, especially because if Russell Westbrook's going to play in the minutes that Joker doesn't play, we already know what the Russ-Jamal fit is going to look like. I don't think that is a good fit for the Nuggets. Just because like Murray's not really ready to shoot off ball that often, and Russ is going to want to create shots for himself and other people. And I don't know if Murray's even like ready for that. It defeats the purpose of paying a guy a whole bunch of money if they're unplayable without the best player in the world. So I understand why fans are feeling the kind of way that they do. Here's what I will say. Denver won a championship with this team, not this exact team, but with a very similar team where they had their main four core of Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon. They had an off-ball shooting guard that started in KCP. Christian Brown, I think, has filled that role reasonably well. The three-point shooting's a little bit down with him, but he does other things better. He's a better playmaker. He's a stronger player. He drives to the rim a little bit more. There's good things that Christian does. Peyton Watson, I think, is ready to step up. Julian Strawther, I think, is ready to step up. How much does can those guys kind of be the version of Bruce Brown along with Russell Westbrook? Can those three be the version of Bruce Brown that the Nuggets needed from the 2022-23 season? Sure. Okay, bro, you are going into timeout. I am not making excuses. Good Lord. It's tough. Hey, we got a super chat coming in from Boyan. Thank you for the super chat. He says, how hard is it for MPJ to develop much better handle? And was there any internal discussion about it? It is difficult. He's 6'10". The actual issue that people are facing here with MPJ is that he's on his third back surgery and he just doesn't move the same way. And that I think, like, what he was previously doing, I actually looked at some streaks that Porter has had in the past where he was scoring like crazy. There was a streak back in the 2020-21 season when Murray went down the first time, like with the ACL tear, where in 33 out of 34 games, Porter scored 16 plus points. Like, he was so consistent. He was unbelievable. And I just don't know if that version of Porter is there again, but it might be. I'm not going to sit here and say that it can't happen. Denver's got to try to contain it. They got to try to figure some stuff out. There are ways that they could potentially do it. With Murray on the team, with him kind of playing the role that he's playing, I kind of find it difficult to believe that they can get to those minutes where, yeah, Jokic and MPJ are the two guys that are like really running it together, because that's what was happening before. And that consistency, I think, was really impressive. I don't think that he can do that from the third spot in the pecking order, maybe even the fourth spot, depending on where you have Aaron Gordon. But I think the handle does hurt him. Part of it is the bend, part of it is the athleticism, part of it is the ability to play athletically with the ball in his hands. I think the handle is not the problem. It's more of the separation that you're supposed to be able to generate from the handle that he just can't do anymore after the back injury has happened. But thank you, Boyan, for the super chat. Hey, we talked about something not Jamal related. Really appreciate it. Really freaking appreciate it. Thank you. Gosh, somebody said this is why they pay you the big bucks, Ryan. You are right. You are absolutely right. Look, there are 70 games left in the regular season. 70. If we're doing this right now, 12 games in, we're not going to survive until the end of the regular season. I'm not going to survive until the end of the year. I'm going to need people to like cool it just a little bit. I understand how much pain and how horrible and how like just disappointed people are in what's going on with Jamal and with the Nuggets right now without Jokic. The great thing is that they have Jokic most of the time. Like, they really do. He'll play 70 plus games. And if he doesn't, I'm sorry. The thing that, like, Denver's identity is Jokic. It's the 3-time MVP. It's the guy that they like. And Joker has talked about this before. Like, I know he's very people try to talk about the unselfishness as like, oh, he could be like a 26-time MVP if he really wanted to. He could, probably, maybe, I don't know. The real point is that Joker at this point, like, is the Nuggets' identity. Denver's paid players. They've paid Murray and Porter and Gordon, especially because of their fit with Jokic. They haven't paid them for what they do without him. And the vast majority of time that the Nuggets are playing, they play with Joker. And the Nuggets are going to win 50 games because of that. Like, I still firmly believe that they're in line to win 50. Has their schedule, like, did they not, like, they screwed up in not winning a cup, at least one of these two games, in my opinion. Could they have won both of them? Sure. Should they have won both of them? No. Like, they were always going to lose at least one of these. I predicted with Swipa on the other show, like Denver would go 2-1 on this road trip. I thought that they would have Joker for it, but even with him, like, I thought that they would lose one of these. And now they have the possibility of going 0-3. But I think that when Joker comes back and everything kind of gets back into order and Murray goes back to taking like 15 shots and they're better shots because Joker's on the floor and Jokic is averaging 30, 14, and 12 like he's doing the entire time, the breath that everybody can take will be better. It'll be nice to kind of get to that. God, it's just okay. I need to get to this now. Joey says Murray follows you on Twitter, so you always defend him. Has anything that I have said in the last 41 minutes and really in the last 48 hours really like giving you the impression that I'm defending Jamal right now? His amount of relationship is whatever. It's whatever at this point. He needs to play better. End of story. Goodbye. Like there's no defense of what he's done so far. I didn't think that he should go to UFC 309. He did it anyway. But like, I just don't. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted right now with what Nuggets fans are like forcing their Nuggets analysts and media members to try to do. Everybody is legitimately trying to get me to like throw the middle finger up at every player that's not Joker, mostly Jamal. And it's just frustrating. I want the team to succeed just as much as everybody else does. I think that they will get back on track. The fortunate thing is that Joker will come back and they'll be a better team. I'm not going to sit here and act like the sky is falling because I just don't think that these are going to be like, this is not going to be a problem for Denver. Like there will be times where there will be a problem, and I will make sure to let people know when there is an actual problem to be had. Right now, it's not like look, they'll be fine. They'll bounce back. In terms of a winning record, Denver's still going to win 50. That's how I feel. All right, that is going to do it. I'm done. That is going to do for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Bet Online. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you enjoyed, I'm surprised. Hit that like button on the way out if you can. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you to everybody for the super chats today. Those were really nice. Those go directly to me. So like, I really do genuinely appreciate when those come through. Thank you for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on the way out. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.